The dusty town square of Red River was suffocating under the weight of a cruel spectacle. The kind of gathering that made men feel powerful and women shrink in fear, a place where dignity was stripped away with a gavel slam. The auctioneer stood tall on the wooden block, his wide-brimmed hat shadowing a face hardened by greed, and behind him, chained like an outlaw, stood a young bride. Her dress, once white, was torn and muddied, her wrists bound in iron, her veil ripped away so every eye could drink in her humiliation. The crowd roared with laughter, spitting cruel jokes about what kind of wife she would make, how quickly she'd break, or how cheaply she could be bought. She didn't cry, didn't scream, didn't beg. Her silence was louder than their jeers, her eyes hollow and far away, as if she'd already left this place in spirit. The auctioneer cracked his whip against the post, demanding attention, his voice booming as he called out the opening bid.
"Here she is, gentlemen."
A bride who couldn't keep her vows, a woman unfit for decency, now for sale to the highest bidder. "Who'll start me at $50? The crowd laughed louder, mocking, shouting insults instead of bids. Some offered a nickel, others a half-empty bottle of whiskey. One man even tossed a stone that struck her shoulder, making her stagger but not fall. She stood straight again, her chains rattling, her gaze fixed on the horizon. Then came a voice from the back, deep, calm, cutting through the chaos like a blade. 100. The laughter stopped. Every head turned to see a tall rancher pushing through the crowd, his broad shoulders and weather-worn hat marking him as a man of the land. He didn't sneer or gloat, didn't leer at the woman in chains. Instead, his eyes were steady, focused, almost defiant. The auctioneer's mouth twitched into a greedy smile, ready to push for more, but the rancher raised a hand. "I'm not bidding like the rest of you. I'll pay 100, and that ends it." The crowd erupted again, mocking him for paying so much for a broken bride, jeering that he must be desperate, that no decent woman would have him. The rancher ignored them all, stepping onto the platform and taking the chain from the deputy's hands. He looked into the woman's eyes for the first time, saw the exhaustion there, the faint ember of pride buried beneath the dirt and despair, and spoke words that silenced the crowd once more. "My son needs you." The bride blinked, confusion flickering in her gaze as the rancher led her away from the jeering mob, the laughter echoing behind them but already fading as if none of it mattered. For the first time that day, the bride felt something she hadn't felt in a long time possibility. The road out of Red River stretched long and lonely, the dust rising behind the rancher's wagon as he guided the horses steadily toward his homestead. The bride sat in the back, her chains now removed but her wrists still raw, rubbing them quietly while keeping her eyes on the horizon. She hadn't spoken a word since he'd taken her, and he hadn't forced her to. Silence was safer for them both, though his words at the auction still lingered in her mind. "My son needs you." She wondered what he meant. Was his son crippled, sick, motherless? Or was this another form of ownership? Another cage disguised as salvation? The rancher's name was Matthew Callahan, though the townsfolk knew him simply as Callahan, a man widowed too young, hardened by the land and softened only by his devotion to the boy he raised alone. His son Jacob was 9 years old, bright-eyed but lonely, his laughter fading more each day since his mother's passing. Callahan hadn't gone to the auction looking for a wife, but when he saw the bride mocked and ridiculed, something inside him had shifted. He couldn't let his son grow up in a world where cruelty went unchallenged, where a woman was less than human in the eyes of men. That night when they reached the ranch, Callahan helped her down from the wagon and led her inside. Jacob rushed to the door, his small boots thudding against the floorboards, his eyes wide as he took in the sight of the weary stranger standing beside his father. "Who's she?" the boy asked, his voice full of innocent curiosity. Callahan crouched, resting a hand on his son's shoulder. "This is someone who needs a home, and maybe if she'll have us, she can help make ours whole again." The bride's heart clenched at the words. No one had spoken to her with such gentleness in years, perhaps ever. She ate at their table that night, though she barely touched her food, and later slept in a small room near Jacob's, the clean sheets strange and overwhelming after so long in filth. For the first time in months, she dreamt not of chains or jeering crowds, but of a boy's laughter echoing in a wide, open field. She woke with tears on her cheeks, not of sorrow, but of something terrifyingly unfamiliar, hope. Days turned to weeks, and life on the Callahan ranch began to shape the bride, whose name slowly found its way back into her own voice. At first she moved like a ghost, wary of every gesture, flinching at sudden noises, avoiding mirrors as though afraid to face what she might see. But Jacob's laughter pulled her into the light. He followed her around with endless questions, showing her the calf born last spring, the apple tree his mother had planted, the creek where he skipped stones with his father. Anna found herself smiling, small at first, then fuller, freer. Each time Jacob tugged her hand and begged her to play. Callahan watched quietly, never pressing, never demanding. He worked the land, with the same steady hands that had pulled her from the auction block, giving Anna the space to breathe, to remember who she was beyond the chains. Yet the town did not forget. Whispers carried through the saloon and the church pews, cruel words about the auction bride living under Callahan's roof, about how she would corrupt his son, betray him, ruin the ranch. Some men came by late one night, their laughter dripping with malice as they shouted at the gate, offering to buy her back for a bottle of whiskey. Anna froze, trembling, but Callahan stood tall, his rifle in hand, his voice calm but firm as he told them they'd best leave his land before. They left it on a stretcher. Jacob clung to Anna's hand that night, whispering, "Don't leave us. Please don't." And for the first time, Anna realized she didn't want to. The chains that had once bound her wrists had been replaced by something else entirely, a bond, forged not of ownership, but of need, trust, and maybe, just maybe, the beginnings of love. It was a stormy night, when the past finally came for Anna, the men who had mocked her at the auction, angry at Callahan for stealing their entertainment and defying their cruelty, rode out to the ranch with torches, determined to take her back. Anna woke to the sound of shouting, of fire crackling near the barn, and for a moment terror consumed her. She thought of running, of hiding, of surrendering just to make it stop. But then she heard Jacob's cry, high and frightened, calling for her. Something inside her snapped, not with fear, but with fire. She rushed to his room, shielding him as Callahan loaded his rifle. "Stay with him," Callahan ordered, but Anna shook her head, gripping the revolver he had once left on the mantel for protection. "No, I won't be taken again." Together they faced the mob, the storm raging overhead, the firelight painting their ranch in shadows. The men sneered, calling her names, demanding Callahan step aside, but Anna raised her weapon with hands that no longer trembled. "I am not for sale," she shouted, her voice carrying across the wind. Not now, not ever again. The courage in her eyes made the men falter, and when Callahan fired a warning shot into the dirt, the mob scattered, unwilling to face a woman who refused to be broken, and a man who would stand beside her to the end. When the storm cleared, the ranch still stood, the fire extinguished, and Anna stood on the porch with Jacob clutching her side. Callahan looked at her, pride and relief in his eyes. "I told them my son needed you," he said softly. "But truth is, we both do." Tears welled in Anna's eyes, not of weakness but of triumph, as she finally let the truth sink in. She was free, and she was home. And friends, if this story of courage, love, and redemption touched your heart, don't forget, there are more tales like this waiting for you. Hit that subscribe button, ride with us through the Wild West, and let's keep these powerful stories alive together.